Private servers for the game Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle have been a thing in the community for as long as many players can remember. Starting to really run rampant in 2021, this caused some of the YouTubers who make content around the game to eventually fade out of the community and focus their energy on other content. Since the existence of private server content on YouTube and throughout the community, it has been nothing short of controversial, causing the community to debate on whether or not it's unhealthy for the game. Though many in the Dokkan community are happy with the existence of private servers, one YouTuber stands firmly against them, starting many passion-fueled debates on Twitter. In today's episode of Dokkan Archives, we are going to take a look into the Dokkan private server enemy number 1, the Truth DT, and his many cases of private server hate, to discover the reason why he thinks private servers are the biggest problem for the Dokkan Battle community and the game as a whole. Heading into 2024, games aren't owned by the people who buy them. Game developers can shut down their servers at any point in time, and then that's just it. Like, you don't have access to that game anymore. Private servers, I think, are the best way to counter that. And you can talk about the ethics of it, but that's just not really fun. So people are constantly spending hundreds of dollars on this game. And honestly, probably even more money than they spent on AAA games through the entire year, just on Dokkan alone. The Truth DT is one of the biggest examples of that. Month after month, we see Truth spend thousands of dollars on Dokkan Battle. And I'm not going to judge him for that. Obviously, he's entitled to that, right? It's his money. He can do whatever he wants with it. But I think if you've spent anything on this game, you should feel like you deserve something out of it. Dokkan Battle just being able to shut down the servers and like thousands of dollars are just down the drain for no reason, that hurts. Starting back from 2018, this is the furthest tweet I could find talking about private servers coming from the Truth DT. And this is one of the ones that really caught my eye. It says, "I'm not saying I started any kind of wave on Dokkan, but that shit has been around long before me or Alex. Alex saying I started the private server meta reeks of someone out of touch with reality." So with that, I did get a little bit of stuff wrong in my initial intro to the video. Private servers have been around for a while. They've been around for quite a long time. That is my fault. I could have done a little bit more research on that. That is my bad. I definitely failed in that aspect. Sora says, "I don't want to start another argument, but yeah, he was the first big YouTuber to focus on doing the private server unit showcases. He mainstreamed it for sure." D-Free actually giving his 2 cents to the private server debate here on this tweet. He says, "Is this particularly something to be proud of from either perspective? At the end of the day, their videos, they're both a part of the community. It doesn't matter who started what first or who does it better than the next. We have all played a part in popularizing certain aspects of what make people enjoy this game's content on YouTube. Let's not make arguments on either side. It's unnecessary. That includes you, of course, the Gaming Claw." But this is just one of the few tweets where the Truth mentions private servers, and I really feel like his hatred for private servers started to rise, I'd say pretty quickly after this thread. So I'm going to take us to a tweet that's actually pretty recent. It just happened this anniversary. Truth says that you guys are complaining about Beast making the game too easy while simultaneously using hacked modded units. I don't know, just try playing the game normally and you'll find it's not so easy. Now, I don't understand why Truth has a problem with the units being 100%. From my perspective, units aren't hacked or modded unless they're specifically described to be in a private server. He describes modding as just the 100% units in the private server in general. That's it. Them being 100% doesn't really affect the game, and they're not too different outside of their potential system builds, which you can't add dodge if you're on any of the free services for private servers. You can't add dodge to any of the private server builds. So that's just really the only difference from a 100% unit in a private server and a 100% unit in game is there's a lot more customization in game, in fact, than there is on the private server. So I don't really understand how he subscribes to the modded idea. Yes, the private server itself you can classify as a mod, but the units in the private server aren't modded unless the developers have specifically modded those characters, but usually that comes in the form of a totally different card in general. And while I can understand the frustration of modding the game and making units probably look a lot better than they should, let's say if they just post a random clip on Twitter and it's actually a modded unit and it's not the real unit, then that could be a problem for sure, and I understand that sentiment. But I don't really understand why every single video of a unit in a private server has to be classified as a modded unit. When people argue the truth about private servers, I genuinely feel like they argue about the wrong thing. They usually like to bring up the fact that the Truth DT uses private servers to showcase units that come out after a data download, which is basically just Dokkan updating their game, right? Like it includes all the assets for the new characters and banners and everything else like that. And after that data download, once they're in the data download, private servers have access to those units, and that's how they come out. And YouTubers are able to showcase those units way earlier than they would release. And me personally, I just feel like that's the wrong thing to argue about. Obviously, a YouTuber who makes content on the game is going to make content on the new characters because he has to. It feels like an obligation, because as soon as private servers have access to those characters, people on Twitter and other YouTubers are going to instantly start making videos and posting them anywhere they can. And not doing that in a community that does content on a live service game can be dangerous for your YouTube channel. So let's talk about another little talking point that people like to bring up when they argue with truth about private servers. And this is a thread coming from Yuna and Slavix, actually. The Truth DT just happens to comment on it. But Yuna says, it's unironically hilarious how this community thinks that bootlicking corporations and defending their products is actually the right thing to do. Slavix responds by saying, I just said it was funny, and these people are mentally ill, says ZVG. And the Truth DT comments down below saying, ZVG, they will literally break their back bending over and twerking for private server runs by scumbags, and in the same breath mock us for defending a corporation. Ridiculous. And what he's referring to is actually a little drama that happened. It's not a little drama, it's actually massive drama, and I planned on doing a video on this earlier, and I still might. Dokkan Entropy has had some issues with not only pedophilia, but also some bullying against like an autistic kid at some point. I think earlier this month. Dokkan Entropy is full of people I would consider to be not great for the community. So this point, I would say, is pretty valid from Truth. I do agree that, like, Bandai is a corporation, and the game that we are currently playing is a live service game, and they can just snap their fingers, and Dokkan is just out of our hands forever. We don't have access to it anymore. I think these private servers are a great way to, I want to say, preserve the lifespan of this game. I just don't see it hurting it much. With that said, though, guys, that's going to do it for today's Dokkan Digest. This is supposed to be a Dokkan Digest. It was originally going to be a Dokkan Archives, but I made it into a bit of more of a Dokkan Digest, just going over through some of the more fun things, talking about Truth and the private servers. And we're definitely going to be making a video. It's my own separate video on Entropy and the heinous crimes that they have committed over there. Because it just deserves its own thing. I don't think that has a place here in this video. I originally planned and intended on, implementing that in here, but it's just too much for a video that's meant to be a little bit more uplifting and fun. So that's gonna have its own video at some point. I don't know when we'll talk about it, but when that happens, it'll be a Dokkan Archive. It won't be a Dokkan Digest, though. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate each and every last one of you who stayed to the very end. If you did, like and subscribe, it means the world to me. I know this Dokkan Digest has been like a little different and definitely paced a little bit weirdly. I've been trying to make these videos every week, just so I can be consistent on that. So if this is a little weird, I'm sorry about that. Hopefully you guys still enjoyed. I really appreciate you all. Thank you so much for staying to the very end. And with that said, I will see you all in the next one.